Hello, this is the final video in the paragraph unit, and it discusses your tone and your mood in your writing. Now, as you are writing, please be aware of your tone. Now, the tone, what does that mean? Well, it's the writer's attitude toward the subject and toward the readers. It is the image that you are intending to portray to your reader. So keep in mind that your choice of words, the details and examples that you select, any quotations that you're including in your writing, these all contribute to the tone that you're trying to portray in your writing. Now here are several tones that can be found in a person's writing. You could be satirical, angry, you can sound disgusted, businesslike, informative, persuasive, confident. You might sound passionate. Your tone could be zealous. You might have a humorous tone, ironic, serious, sarcastic. It might be a questioning tone, and so on. So here are some questions you can ask yourself to discover the tone of the writing. 1. How is language used? That's one. The language that you choose will depend on the purpose and the point that the writer wants to convey. So the words that you choose must be selected very, very carefully, because you're definitely portraying a very specific mood through your language. 2. Does the writer use colloquial language or slang? Now, this type of informal language should only be used in informal writing. You should not use colloquialisms or slang, excuse me, in formal writing. So if you're writing an essay, a business report, an email that's work-related, you should try to always use formal language. Now, a well-written paragraph for business purposes or a paragraph for the academic environment should always avoid the use of slang or colloquial language. You must always use formal language. Now, I've given you an example here. This is informal. I don't want my mother to freak out when she sees the junk in my bedroom. Now, to freak out is slang. And this type of writing is fine if it's conversational and casual. So if you're saying that to a friend, you're writing it in a friendly letter to somebody, and you'd say, oh, my mother had a real freak out when she saw how messy my room was, that was fine. But if you are writing formally in the business environment, or you were handing in a paper for school, for an academic setting, look at this example. You wouldn't say freak out. You'd say, I do not want my mother to be upset when she sees that my bedroom is in a terrible state. So formal writing will make your writing impersonal, serious, and much more instructional. And this formal writing is how you always want to write for the business world or the academic world. Formal writing is also written in magazine articles, in the newspaper, etc. Another thing you want to consider is, have you insulted your reader either deliberately or unintentionally? You want to read your writing over and say, has my tone in any way been offensive, and will my reader be upset? Have you asked yourself, have you been sensitive to your reader's values, to ethics, background, and gender? For example, here are some phrases you want to avoid. You don't want to say it is most obvious that, because maybe it isn't obvious to everybody, so you're really being a little bit condescending when you make that comment. Everyone knows, well, maybe not. Then you read it and you say, well, I didn't know that, so you don't want the person to become offended. Only a fool wouldn't understand. I mean, that's very derogatory, saying only a fool. Or surely everybody realizes, again, you don't know that everybody will realize. So what I mentioned here was to remember that what's obvious to one person may not be obvious to another. So don't insult your reader, because right away your reader's not going to want to continue reading. Your reader will be offended by what you say. So all these types of expressions create a particular tone to your writing, and not a very positive one. The fourth point is ask yourself after you've written something, have you avoided using sarcasm or any profanities? If you're going to talk down to your reader, if you're going to swear, if you're going to use rude language, your reader will not agree with what you're saying and may stop reading your writing, and you're certainly not going to win the reader over to your way of thinking. So using rudeness or profanity or not being sensitive to a person's gender or backgrounds or ethics or morals is not a way to win somebody to keep reading on or to believe in your argument. Another point is, does your choice of sentence length and structure affect your tone? And here's what I mean. Parallel structure adds balance and rhythm to your sentences and to your thoughts. And use of parallel structure will connect your feelings and ideas. Now, there are quite a few videos that talk about parallel structure, and if you don't know what that means, it is important because your writing should always be written in parallel format, in parallel structure. You can review the video in the website on parallelism, parallel structure. Also, using several shorter sentences will be more abrupt, powerful, and intense, and will create emphasis and impact on the reader and also create a certain tone. So you want to have some shorter sentences, but you don't want too many, because if you're using too many short sentences, your tone might become too abrupt, too powerful, and that's not effective. But the odd short sentence is helpful to add a certain tone, but you need to mix it with some longer sentences. And the third point under sentence length and structure is the fact that, as I just mentioned, use of longer sentences can create a moment of reflection, capturing a sense of deeper thought or a memory or a mood of nostalgia. So that's the difference between using a shorter sentence and longer sentence. So you want to be careful. If you want to be more nostalgic, you're remembering the past, you want to create a different sort of a mood, or you're describing a memory, you might do a better job with mood having a slightly longer sentence, slightly longer, but you have to be careful it doesn't get too long that it's a run-on sentence. So review your sentence length and the structure of your sentences. Another point is, ask yourself, do you want your tone to be more conversational, or do you want it to be more formal or informal? If you want your tone to be conversational, your choice of language would be different than if it was formal. Your language would have to be very formal. Also, are you using slang or technical language or jargon to suit a very specific audience? Ask yourself, are you using formal writing because you're writing to appeal to an academic audience? So what I mean by this is, if you're writing for a specific audience, like let's say you're writing something for people in the computer field, you know they're going to understand your language, the jargon that you're using for the computer field, then that's fine to use all that computer terminology. But if you're writing something that is linked to the computer world, and it's quite technical language that you're discussing, but you are writing for an audience that might not understand the jargon that you're using, you need to watch your tone. You need to be careful of your choice of language. So think about who your audience is, and if they're going to understand all that terminology because they're in the same field as you are, then that's fine. But if they're not in that field, don't use language that's above their head, because they're not going to read on. They're not going to complete the article that you've written. The 8th point is, ask yourself if you've remained clear, calm, and reasonable when presenting your ideas. If you feel strongly about a particular topic, you may be extremely tempted to be very emotional. So if you're becoming too emotional, you'll lose your argument because your tone of writing will change. So you don't want to be too emotional. You don't want to come across as hot-headed in your writing. Even if you're really passionate about something, express yourself calmly and don't be very emotional. Your reader will not find you convincing, so the depth of your understanding of your topic may be diminished. So you might know a lot about your topic, but if you're coming across as emotional and you're using overly emotional language, your understanding of the topic will seem weak because all your reader will think of is your emotions. So watch being too emotional in your writing. So to conclude, let's take a look at my conclusion. When writers determine the purpose and goals of their writing, they must pay close attention to the tone that they want to create, because you want to achieve as the writer the most effective results in your writing. So watch your tone and think about who your audience is and what tone you want to have in your writing. The tone that you select will directly affect your style and your voice. So understanding your tone will help the writer to impart a certain purpose to your writing, and you want to reach your audience in the best possible way. So you want to watch what your tone is because you want to reach a wide audience. Now, analyze the tone in the following student's paragraph, and then we're going to look at how a particular tone was created in this paragraph. So if you'd like to follow with me. Looking after their own bedrooms and the general cleanup of their mess around our home have been my son's chores since they were around 6 years of age. Of course, what they describe to me as, "I've tidied it all up now," and my idea of what is all tidied up now are undeniably different. The rule of the house is that the boys are not allowed to watch television after school until their bedrooms are safe for me to enter. What this means is that I should not faint from horror upon opening their bedroom doors and looking around their rooms. I know that I'm taking a chance in asking for trouble when I dare to peek under their beds, in their closets, or in their dresser drawers. For the sake of keeping harmony in the family, I try to take on this room checkup only once a month. So you can see that this paragraph, it's quite informal. It uses humor. It also has some sarcasm. Notice how words have been put in quotes here for emphasis. Of course, what they describe to me as, "I've tidied it all up now," and my idea of what is all tidied up now. So that's used for emphasis. So there's a very light tone, but it's a little bit comical. It's very informal, simple use of language, variety of sentences used, all to create a much more conversational and informal tone in this writing. And it does, it's interesting, and it's on the comical side, and it's getting the point across that the mom is kind of tired of cleaning up the mess. So she's ending by saying, well, she just wants to keep harmony in the family, so she'll just do this checkup once a month and just turn a blind eye the rest of the time. So a definite mood is created, and it's a well-written paragraph. A definite tone is created, sorry. Now we're going to talk about mood. Now, what are the differences between tone and mood? Well, tone and mood are two very different elements in writing, and it's important to identify the tone and the mood to help the reader to understand and appreciate the author's style of writing. So let's look at the difference. The tone of a piece of writing is the writer's attitude towards the subject. So whatever my attitude is towards the subject will be my tone, and I'll write accordingly depending on what my view is on that topic. The writing conveys the author's opinions, attitudes, and beliefs. So the author's tone is presented by the use of language, by the use of style of writing, and any other tools. So my tone could be created by different words that I'm using, by maybe using shorter sentences or longer sentences, or where I put my modifiers in the sentence. This all creates the tone. The mood of a piece of writing is just the general feeling that the writing generates or evokes in the reader. So you might write something, and the mood that I get from that piece of writing, maybe I'm upset. Here's some moods. Maybe you've left me happy. Maybe I'm very uncomfortable. Am I depressed after I read it? Am I content with what you've said? Those are all the moods. It's the general feeling that you, the writer, is generating or evoking in me the reader. So that's the difference between tone and mood. So to conclude, tone and mood, they're not always identical, but they can be similar. But for example, the tone of your writing could be very serious, very businesslike, but the mood may be one of surprise. So you might be businesslike in your tone, but then by the end of what I've read, I'm like, whoa, I'm kind of surprised by what you've read. So the tone may be sarcastic or humorous, but the reader may feel discomfort at the end. So although you're trying to be funny and humorous, by what you've said through your sarcasm, the mood that's created in me is I might feel a little bit uncomfortable. So just review the difference between mood and tone, and please let me know if you have any questions on either of these terms, mood or tone. So I've included many videos in the paragraph unit. I've tried to cover all topics possible with relation to writing effective paragraphs, and please look over the videos carefully. You can review and print off my companion notes that go along with each video. And please let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like to write a paragraph and have it assessed. I'm glad to assess your writing skills and let you know where your strengths and weaknesses lie in writing a paragraph. Thank you, and I hope that you found the paragraph unit helpful. Bye.